Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm pleased to bring you the wines from Blue Mountain Vineyards Cellars. And this is one of my favorite BC wineries. Viewers and subscribers know I'm not a huge fan of BC wines. Not that I'm a detractor, but I like to get value and I don't like when they kind of overprice things. But Blue Mountain, I really like the story. I've done previous videos on them where I've explained the history, so I'm going to put that at the end of this video. Basically, it's family run. It was started in 1971 by Ian and Jane Mavety, and now it's run by their two children, Christie and Matt Mavety. So it's been family run since 1971. For the first 20 years, they were producing grapes for other commercial wineries, and they started their own label in 1991. And what I like about them, family run, they've kept the same label, they've kept pricing down, they haven't gone out of their means. They've just done things that make them successful, which is they've continued on with their wines. They haven't overpriced them. They haven't changed for the sake of change. So they have increased their portfolio a little bit. They've increased the reserve wines. But over that 40-year time period, really not a lot has changed in terms of the quality of the wines they produce, how they produce them, the size of their case lots. So I really like that about them. They haven't kind of gone and ebbed and flowed just with the trends. They've just done their thing and they produce really good wines. They know what they're good at and they've continued to do that. These wines were sent to me by the winery, and you may say, Trophy, you're probably going to just say good things about them because they sent you the wine. Honestly, I buy these wines every year. So when the winery said they were going to send wines to me, I was elated because that allows me to actually pre-taste them, and I will actually now go and buy these wines. So it's not like I drink these wines and review them and that's it. I actually am interested in drinking them because I actually buy them every year, and this is even better because now I can actually taste them. Some of the wines, it gives me an opportunity to try things that I wouldn't normally buy. So the first wine is one of these. It's the Sauvignon Blanc 2023. I wasn't even aware they produced Sauvignon Blanc, and maybe it wasn't on my radar. And again, that's my kind of preconceived idea that Sauvignon Blanc doesn't work in BC because maybe it's a little bit too hot for that, and you need a little bit more cool climate like New Zealand for Sauvignon Blanc. So I'm really interested in tasting this wine. It's produced from 16 to 17-year-old vines. The wine is fermented 40% in stainless steel, 18% in oak casks, and 40% in larger French oak barrels. And it spends 5 months sur lie, and finally the wines are in tank and then the barrel, and then they were bottled just recently in April of this year. So 13.5% alcohol content, and let's take a taste and smell of this. The first thing that jumps out at me, again, surprising. I think if you blinded me on this, I don't think I would be able to tell this if this was BC Sauvignon Blanc or New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. I've had some BC Sauvignon Blanc, not much, but what I have had is the acidity isn't there. It's kind of bland, and it's very neutral and very bland. Doesn't taste like Sauvignon Blanc, but just right away on this aroma, I can smell the great acidity on this: lemon, citrus, gooseberries, and a little bit of minerality. So really, the first impressions of the smell is very good. I'm really surprised by this wine. It's priced at $26, and I think it's a very reasonable price. I love the acidity on this wine. I'm just kind of going through my mental notes about could I tell this from a Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand? Very close. If I really, really focused hard, maybe this is a slightly sweeter in terms of the fruit profile. It's got some peaches, some apricots, but it's got that gooseberry, that minerality that you see in fairly typical of a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, and that searing acidity. It's got that. It's a very nice wine, quite delicious. And so I think this really shocked me because, again, I've never bought their Sauvignon Blanc, and wow, this is kind of a wow wine for me in terms of them being able to produce this wine. I'm going to take one more taste of it. Yeah, I really like this, the weight on this wine and the aftertaste. The aftertaste has got that minerality, that stone fruit element to it. So maybe that would kind of twig me that it wouldn't be New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, but it's got great acidity, great aftertaste, and a little good body. So I really like this wine. I'm going to give it 89 points. So the Sauvignon Blanc was their 2023 vintage. This is their Pinot Blanc from 2023. I'm very familiar with this wine, and I think this is one of the best examples of Pinot Blanc that BC produces. The other one that I really like is Lake Breeze. And so again, let's go through a little bit of details on this. This wine is fermented 34% in stainless steel, 42% in smaller barrels, and then 24% in larger barrels, and then 12% in 4-year-old French oak barrels. The barrel fermented wines are then aged on lees with no stirring of the lees. Once they've settled, to give them a little bit more body and texture and complexity. So let's taste this wine. And again, it's a 14% alcohol wine, so that's a little bit heavier than I would experience. But Pinot Blanc, for me, is going to be a little bit more substantial, not as acidic, going to be a little bit more almondy in terms of the taste profile, a little bit more neutral. And again, I love the idea that I'm going to taste 3 fairly distinct white wines, Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Blanc, and Pinot Gris. Blue Mountain does this the correct way, and they're all fairly prototypical of the grape varietals. And so it's really easy to understand these wines. So again, on the smell, it's not as acidic, but I smell a little more orange blossoms on this. A little floral components to this. And again, this is the beauty of this. Their wines are very clear in what they try to represent. I love that. And they're distinct. So I like that simplicity in terms of wines. I like wines that kind of taste how they should taste and are not kind of mixtures or blends in terms of, it's easier for me to understand, and I think it's easier for me to assess in terms of, oh, I like this wine, I don't like this wine, or I like this taste today, or this goes with a certain food. Yeah, so the smell, I think, is a little bit more floral in the profile. Yeah. So on the taste, not as much acidity, a bit more body. You do get that kind of more vanilla, almost like an almond paste type flavors to this. You still get minerality, you still get fruit, like white fruits. I would say the Sauvignon Blanc, you're going like citrus. Even on the end of that, a little bit more apricots and peaches. This one, you're getting white peaches, which is not as fruity, not as kind of tangy in terms of that sense from my perspective. Some people that I drank with it described it as tangy, but I'm not sure if it's like, I would describe it as tangy, but I would say it's more, to me, the Sauvignon Blanc is more citrusy and more acidic. This one is a little bit more white fruit, like white peaches. That's really the thing that I would go in my mind, and almost like an almond paste. If you've had those Chinese almond desserts, those type of things, or almond cookies, that type of kind of taste profile. I think this wine goes really well with food. And what type of food? White fish. Grilled fish. I could see this going very well with that. Oysters. So I like this a little bit more than the Sauvignon Blanc, just because I think it's more versatile. The Sauvignon Blanc, I find it a little bit more like a sipping wine, It's got some weight on it, but this one comparatively, I think it's even got a little bit more weight, a little bit more alcohol, and a little bit of neutrality in terms of its tones. And I think it will pair very, very well with food, especially white fish. So I could see that easily. I really like this wine, but I've always liked this wine. So I'm going to give it 90 points. Next wine we're going to have is going to be the 2023 Pinot Gris. And all these wines are priced at $26 a bottle, which I think is crazy value. I would actually go and buy these wines because they're unique. First of all, you don't see them in BC liquor stores. You might see them in specialty shops. So they're very unique. They're not expensive. You do have to buy, I think, a case lot, like a mixed case or whatever. But I think they're so special and they're not expensive. And I think they show the best of BC. So I would really encourage you to go out and buy these wines. I know I am after this tasting. So this is the Pinot Gris. So Pinot Gris to me is a grape varietal that personally is, is not kind of in my drinking window, because Pinot Gris a lot of times is got a lot of grind, like orange grind, lemon peel, marmalade. That's not things that I really like. It's got a little aftertaste bitterness, which is not my thing. But good Pinot Gris is okay because you've got that sweetness. The problem is you've got too much bitterness for me. I don't like that. But if you kind of have enough sweetness, that's okay. Unfortunately, Pinot Gris gets a bad name because we get a lot of Pinot Grigio from Italy. But a lot of the entry-level Pinot Grigio is, in my opinion, not very good and very dilute and really not representative of what Pinot Gris grape can do. So people drink Pinot Grigio and think that that's it. That's not it. Drink some of the top producers in Italy of Pinot Grigio. And again, I'm a big fan of Blue Mountains Pinot Gris because I think they do something that is very characteristic of the grape and really lovely to drink. So let's see how this vintage goes. This wine was fermented 75% in what they smaller oak casks and then 25% in stainless steel. The wine spends 6 months sur lie, and then when you do sur lie, I think that adds some complexity and some creaminess to the wine. Let's smell the wine. Yeah, so on the smell, I get a little smokiness and a little bit of orange blossoms, but a little bit heavier. So it's really useful to taste this way. We go from a Sauvignon Blanc, which is very acidic, almost searing acidity. And then we go to a Pinot Blanc, which is a little bit acidic. I would say Blue Mountains Pinot Blanc is a little bit fresher or has more acidity than most Pinot Blancs, which I like. And then you go to a Pinot Gris, which again is going to be lower acidity, but characteristically all of Blue Mountains wines are a little bit more vibrant and a little bit on the acidic side, which I actually like. It brings some vibrancy to the wine. They smell and they taste very fresh. Yeah, so this one's orange blossoms, some stone fruit, and some almost like a slate. Almost like some flintiness on this. So quite nice, quite characteristic of Pinot Grigio or Pinot Gris. Again, this is very characteristic. It's going to be lower acidity, a little bit more body on this, much more food wine, but it does have that orange peel, orange marmalade kind of taste to it. A slight bitterness on the aftertaste when you get this grind or this peel, which not really my personal preference, but I know it's very characteristic of Pinot Grigio or Pinot Gris grape. And so I actually like this wine. I'm not a big fan of Pinot Gris, but I'm a big fan of this wine. And so if it's kind of acceptable to my taste buds, it's probably a pretty decent Pinot Gris. So I'm going to rate this again 90 points. They make some of the best white wines out there. And so, wow, this is another winner for me. The last wine we're going to taste is a brand new wine. It's their 2022 Estate Cuvée Pinot Noir, which is just being released. And so this is about $35 a bottle. So Blue Mountain is really known for its Pinot Noir and its Chardonnay. I love the idea that they kind of focus on what they do well, and they don't try to produce everything. They don't produce Merlot, they don't produce Cab, they just produce their Pinot Noir. Now they do now produce some reserve labels, which are a little bit higher in price, but that has been, they've done this for 40 years and it's now starting to produce reserves. It's not like this is an afterthought. They've actually thought this out very carefully. So this wine is from 15 to 16-year-old vines. It spends 14 to 18 days in maceration, and 100% of the vintage, like most of the other wines, are fermented with wild yeast that are native to the vineyard. So this is really their entry-level wine. It's meant to be easy drinking. They say it can age 6 to 7 years. And I do find with Blue Mountain wines, you do need a couple of years for it to kind of age and to kind of settle in. So I expect that this will be pretty young. So let's try the wine. So on the smell, it's got kind of like a mulberry bush type smell to it, foresty, and of course black currants. So a little bit of mustiness also in that. And I think this is just the funkiness of the wine being just being bottled and new. So I think it'll take a little while for this wine to kind of relax. It is very kind of black fruit dominated on the smell. On the taste, black cherries and almost like a cola type taste predominates. But I've had this wine before and have quite a bit of experience with Blue Mountain's Pinot Noir. Right now, it tastes quite Alsatian. It's almost a little bit astringent and austere. I think this wine needs about 3 years to relax and to soften. So I wouldn't worry too much about this wine at this point. At this point, I rated 88 points, but I think it will soften in about 3 years. That's my experience. Even with their entry-level wines, they need time to kind of develop and soften a bit. I do find when they are out of the bottle, the initial taste is a little bit Alsatian in style. But it's a good wine. There's lots of fruit on the palate, lots of dark fruit, but I just don't think it's giving everything right now. And it's hard to because it was just bottled, I think, in recently. So, and it's in fact just being released. So if you're gonna buy this wine, I think you need to give it a little time and know that it's gonna get better in a couple of years. In summary, what a great tasting. I really enjoyed all the wines. The Sauvignon Blanc actually surprised me that it was so good. So I'm really glad that the winery sent this to me. The Pinot Blanc did not surprise me, and I think it probably was the best wine of the tasting. Second wine probably was the Pinot Gris. And I did taste these wines with a number of people, and they all quite agreed with me that probably 1 and 2 in terms of the just enjoyability of the wines right now is the Pinot Blanc and the Pinot Gris. And then the Pinot Noir needs time. But I know this from experience because I've purchased this wine many, many years. So you're going to ask, well, Trophy, you said you're going to purchase these wines, which I'm actually going to go and purchase the Pinot Blanc and also the Pinot Gris. Why I'm not purchasing the Pinot Noir is because I would probably go with their reserve labels, which I think are a little bit more special. They're priced at $10 or $15 more, but I think for that extra, there is quite a step up. This is a good wine for $35, but I think they've got better wine. So if I've got the means, I'm gonna be able to purchase that. Sauvignon Blanc is also a very nice choice, but just from my perspective, these are the standouts. These are, it's very hard to find very good Pinot Blanc. It's very hard to find very good Pinot Gris. So that's why, to me, those would be the wines that I'm most fortunate, or I'd be most interested in purchasing. But if you look at this selection, these are 26, 26, 26, 35. So let's say that's just under $100. You could get this selection of wine for one bottle of some of the top end wines in BC. So I'd rather have this. I'd rather have 3 magnificent white wines and a Pinot Noir than one bottle of kind of flagship wine in BC that I could get anywhere else in the world. So that's just my view of things. So I hope you've enjoyed this tasting, and I will have the website. And again, their wines are only by order from their winery. I think you can find them in some specialty stores. But from my perspective, it's kind of, I would just purchase them directly. I mean, what I do is I usually kind of purchase 3 bottles of this, 3 bottles of that, and kind of get a selection. I've done that before where I purchased like 6 different wines from them, and then just 2 bottles of each just to try out everything. But now that I've got this opportunity this year where they've sent me the wines, I don't have to do that. I can kind of focus on the wines I really like, which is the Pinot Gris and the Pinot Blanc. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Until next time, happy drinking.